The John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington, D.C. is one of the nation's premier performing arts centers, holding some 2,000 events for some 2 million artsgoers each year. It's an unusual public-private partnership, with most funding raised privately, but some coming from the federal government. And it's traditionally been a bipartisan institution, with presidents adding their choices for members of the Kennedy Center board. Now it's at a crossroads. Senior arts correspondent Jeffrey Brown reports from the Kennedy Center for our Arts and Culture series, Canvas.
This satellite on behalf of humanity.
A spectacular sky painting over the Kennedy Center by Chinese artist Sai Guo Chang for the opening of the Earth to Space Festival, a 3-week event exploring the intersection of arts, science, and technology. There were installations such as this 22-foot spaceman by artist Brendan Murphy.
It's about embracing the unknown, problem solving.
And a wall of quilt blocks conceived by an actual astronaut, Karen Nyberg, the first to quilt while in space.
Usually on Earth, I sew with a machine, so the hand sewing part was a little bit of a challenge.
Artists have always been piqued by nature.
As Vice President for International Programming, Alicia Adams has put on many of these festivals.
I think we are unique, and I think we are the only performing arts center in America that can do work that is this big.
But a week earlier, as captured in news reports, there were jokes and jabs during one of the Kennedy Center's signature annual events, the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor, given this year to Conan O'Brien.
Today they announced 2 board members, Bashar al-Assad and Skeletor.
We're going to fix it, make it beautiful.
It's been a stunning 2 months that have rocked the institution and the wider arts world. As President Trump purged the center's traditionally bipartisan board of directors of its Biden-era appointees, named new members including country music singer Lee Greenwood, Fox News host Maria Bartiromo and Laura Ingraham, and replaced Chairman David Rubenstein, a financier and philanthropist, with himself, the first time a president has taken that role in the center's 54-year history. Also out, Deborah Rutter, a respected arts administrator who led the center for more than a decade. She spoke on NPR just days after her firing.
How will we be able to sustain what we've done to really throw open the doors and make sure that the Kennedy Center is not just welcoming everybody, but seeing themselves and hearing their stories on our stages?
Taking her place as interim president, Richard Grenell, a diplomat and Trump loyalist who served in the first Trump administration. Grenell did not respond to requests for a NewsHour interview.
Instead of complain, just sit and wait, and you will be impressed and say, "Thank you, Mr. President."
But we did talk with Paolo Zampoli, an Italian-born longtime friend of the president, appointed by him to the Kennedy Center board in 2020. Zampoli, a businessman, says he wants to make the Kennedy Center a more exciting destination, an American jewel like La Scala in his native Milan, adding such features as a ferry landing on the Potomac and an Academy of Arts on nearby Roosevelt Island. He supports the overhaul of the board.
They were very hostile with the Trumps and the MAGA and all his appointees. So those people, we had no way possible to work together. That's why the president made this decision, and I think it's very wise. We'll make the center great again.
President Trump has referred critically to what he calls woke programming and said we didn't like what they were showing. On his Truth Social, he wrote, "Just last year, the Kennedy Center featured drag shows specifically targeting our youth. This will stop." The center has presented drag events, a tiny percentage of its annual programming. In fact, the Kennedy Center, with constituent organizations, including the National Symphony Orchestra and the Washington National Opera, has regularly presented the world's leading artists for decades. Its Millennium Stage offers free performances daily by local, national, and international artists. In 2019, it expanded its campus and offerings with the opening of The Reach, a series of performance and rehearsal spaces. But now some prominent artists are staying away. Immediately following President Trump's moves, Kennedy Center artistic advisors Renee Fleming and Ben Folds resigned from their positions. TV producer Shonda Rhimes, appointed by President Obama, abruptly left her position as treasurer. Performers, including actress-comedian Issa Rae and musician Rhiannon Giddens, canceled upcoming shows.
I'm thinking past tomorrow.
And the hit production Hamilton, which was previously played at the Kennedy Center, announced it would not return as planned in 2026. Hamilton producer Jeffrey Seller posted, "The recent purge flies in the face of everything this national center represents." At his recent trip to the center, President Trump responded to the Hamilton announcement.
I never liked Hamilton very much, and I never liked it. But we are going to have some really good shows. Are you gonna run?
In Philadelphia recently, we met Adam Weiner, frontman for the rock band Low Cut Connie, who canceled his participation in a Kennedy Center series called Social Impact.
I would be sending a message to my fans that A, I am some extension of his regime, or worse, that I don't care.
The new leadership has now dismantled the center's social impact team with its stated effort to advance justice and equity, laying off its director and others. For his part, Paolo Zampoli calls fears that President Trump will overhaul programming
confusion and fake news. The president is asking everybody what they want. It is. The people were making jokes. It's going to be like a propaganda of the president, the music of the president laughs. No.
Things that were unthinkable a month ago, 2 weeks ago, a year ago are happening faster in many ways than we can keep track of them.
But many are very worried, including Philip Kennicott, Pulitzer Prize-winning art and architecture critic for The Washington Post. He points to the recent announcement that producers of an opera titled Fellow Travelers, featuring 2 gay protagonists, have withdrawn from the 2026 schedule, citing what they called the takeover of the Kennedy Center and policies that contradict the values of their opera.
Censorship isn't simply saying, no, you may not come here, or no, you may not say that. It's about not inviting people to contribute. It's about people self-censoring.
Now, you're using a big word here, censorship.
I do think it is already happening. The Kennedy Center has created an environment, the current leadership, in which the producers of Hamilton feel they don't want to be associated with that. I think the example set at the Kennedy Center will have a chilling effect on other organizations all across the country.
One major test will be the Kennedy Center Honors, the institution's most prestigious annual event, which since 1978 has included a who's who of artistic stars from all walks of American and international culture. Presidents traditionally attend, but in his first term, Donald Trump did not. In an audio recording at his recent board meeting leaked to the New York Times and Washington Post, he floated names including Paul Anka, Sylvester Stallone, Johnny Mathis, and Andrea Bocelli. And though the honors have not been given posthumously and have always been limited to artistic fields, Elvis Presley and Babe Ruth. The president also said he himself might serve as host of the honors. At a recent concert by the National Symphony, some booed when Vice President J.D. Vance took his seat. And as shown in news reports, Conan O'Brien drew a standing ovation when he lauded Kennedy Center employees.
My eternal thanks for their selfless devotion to the arts. And I think we should all...
At the same time, though, the show does go on, including the big Earth to Space Festival, which in its 3 weeks will feature scores of performances.
I think of these festivals as being knowledge festivals, a place. It gives people an opportunity not to just have a great time and be entertained, but to also learn something. And that's something that's been very important to me. And I'm still here, trying to do this work.
For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Jeffrey Brown at the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington, D.C.